Podcast Network Asia.
You are listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast, where we feature timely and relevant discussions on the Philippine stock market and the economy in the hope of providing you investing and trading guidance. Here's your host.
How's it going, investors? Hi, I'm Anjz, an equity research associate from Securities, where I cover the consumer sector. In this episode of Market Bites, I bring you the latest company update on Universal Robina Corporation, URC, titled Delivering Double-Digit EBIT Growth. We are highlighting a buy recommendation for URC at 145 pesos target price. On sales, URC recorded top-line growth of 7% year-on-year to 42.6 billion pesos in the first quarter of 2024. This is in line with ours and management's mid to high single-digit target for this year. Breaking it down by segment, first you have Branded Consumer Foods Group, or BCF, which accounts for greater than 65% of revenues, grew 3.4% year-on-year to 28.3 billion pesos. BCF Philippines grew 5.7% year-on-year, of which 5% out of 5.7% was volume-driven, according to management. Market share performance improved for snacks, chocolates, biscuits, cakes, and ready-to-drink milk. Was flat-ish for candies, noodles, RTD tea, and water, and weakened for coffee. We note that coffee accounts for the bulk of powdered beverages, which was around 20% of total branded Philippine top line in 2023. At its peak, coffee accounted for around 30% of the business. BCF International staged a robust recovery, an uptick of 13% quarter-on-quarter on continued market share gains in Vietnam, Myanmar, and Malaysia, as well as successful price point corrections in Thailand and Indonesia. Second, Agro-Industrial and Commodity Foods Group, or AIC, drove overall top-line performance, growing by 15% year-on-year to 14.3 billion pesos. Some other key points to note are the following. Sugar grew 25% year-on-year on higher volumes. Flour managed to eke out flat growth of 0.3% year-on-year as double-digit volumes offset lower prices. Agro-Industrial Group, or AIG, was also flat-ish at 1.3% year-on-year as strong pet food and poultry feeds growth was dragged by lower hog feed volumes. At the EBIT level, URC delivered double-digit operating income growth. That's a 16% year-on-year increase to 1.1 billion pesos, ahead of our estimates, on better-than-expected margins from BCF operations. URC ended the quarter with 12.7% in EBIT margin, up by 100 bips year-on-year despite A&P reinvestments. That's 6% of BCF revenues. By segment, BCF Philippines EBIT margin was at 13.2%, an increase of 80 bips year-on-year. BCF International was at 12.8%, that's 169 bips year-on-year, and AIC at 18.8%, negative 16 bips year-on-year. Management attributed the continued margin expansion to higher volumes, lower input costs, and cost-saving initiatives. Regarding net earnings, Universal Robina Corporation generated 4.1 billion pesos in net earnings for the first quarter of 2024, higher by 21% year-on-year, and ahead by 30% of our full-year forecast for 2024. Our recommendation is a buy, a target price of 145 pesos. Our TP is derived from DCF and assumes WACC at 9.8% and 3% long-term growth. Our TP implies 23 times for 2024 PE and 21 times for 2025 PE, slightly below historical mean valuations of 26 times PE. Again, that's a buy call on Universal Robina Corporation, URC, at 145 pesos TP. And that's it for this episode of Market Bites. Hope this has been helpful.
Thanks for listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast. Don't forget to follow us to get first dibs on our new episodes. For more up-to-date market news and info, exclusive content, and the opportunity to connect with your fellow Filipino investors and traders, join facebook.com/groups/FirstMetroSec and be part of the FirstMetroSec family.
FirstMetroSec is providing this podcast as a general market commentary. Reference to any specific security, product, or entity do not constitute as an offer or a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any financial instruments or to participate in any particular trading strategy. The statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed by the hosts are subject to change without notice, and FirstMetroSec is under no obligation to update, amend, change, or correct any of the statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed. The statements, comments, views, and opinions expressed by the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of FirstMetroSec. FirstMetroSec disclaims any liability arising from reliance on or reference to any information obtained in this podcast.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.